What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Joe from DED. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. I gotta say, seeing you guys at Louder Than Life exactly a year ago at this time, you guys are definitely a band that's reminiscent on the good old days to escape this time.
Oh, dude, awesome. Yes, thank you. Man, I use music a lot to get to escape this time for sure.
Definitely. You just released the new single, Parasite, so could this serve as maybe like a clear representation of what the follow-up to Misanthrope is going to sound like, or is that just like the tip of the iceberg, or maybe kind of like a one-off sort of thing?
I would say it's a representation of parts of it, but yeah, like I think there's a lot of diversity on the album, on like the rest of the songs, we released a couple other ones too. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an idea of some of the things, but there's a lot of different vibes going on for the new stuff.
Mm-hmm. For the next album, are you planning to make just a direct continuation of what we heard on Misanthrope, or are you trying to maybe have maybe a new beginning for DED in a way?
I guess it's a it's a bit of like, the sounds are still there. It's still the same band and stuff, but I think we definitely try to do something a little bit different on some of the songs. I think sonically it sounds different. I think it sounds sonically a little bit bigger, maybe a bit more produced in certain ways. But, I think, we didn't want to do the exact same thing. I think that gets a little boring, at least for us. So we tried different things. I tried to find different ways to use my voice, which definitely on Parasite, I never really did anything like the verses. I kind of tried to make some kind of like monster voice or something like that. So there's all kinds of different things happening for the new album.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought, I don't know how, some bands feel a little iffy on this label, but I've always thought that DED was relatively experimental. I mean, just on the last album, going from like a song like Architect to Dead to Me to Rope to I Exist, like it almost seems like, trying new things is almost like part of the formula for DED, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for noticing
that. Is there ever like a preconceived idea on how you want it to sound, or is there kind of like a lot of improvising involved?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's just like whatever ends up sounding good, really, honestly. And I guess there's like an idea for us, like where we say, well, this, all right, cool. That we've said it before, like, oh, that sounds like DED, like how DED's supposed to sound. But we only have one album, so I don't know. It's hard to say that exactly what DED's supposed to sound like. So I think we're still shaping that. And I think, really it's just supposed to sound like whatever we end up liking, really. I mean, I think that's what it ultimately comes down to.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, so right now at the moment, people can criticize for saying DED sounds too much like DED, but I would consider that a compliment.
Yeah, me too. I would say the same.
Yeah. When it comes to like getting inspired to write, like, do you guys have to kind of like look for inspiration, or does inspiration sometimes just come out of the blue? Is there kind of like a lot of happy accidents, as I like to call it in songwriting?
Yeah, I guess there's happy accidents. And it's just like anything else, like sometimes it's really flowing, and sometimes it's not. So sometimes you got to push it a little bit differently. Sometimes you just got to like vibe out, listen to a bunch of good music, and get it get like 100 different songs bouncing around in your head, and you kind of make it your own, in a certain way. So there's a million different ways, and if you're someone like you're saying, someone creative making something that sometimes you'll come up with a melody first, sometimes it's a riff or a beat, whatever it is. Like there's no like one way to make music really, like when you're writing music. So it's really just like once something just sounds cool, once it just lights that little like creative fire inside of you, and you hear it, you feel it, you just run with it.
Mm-hmm. Is there ever something that does have to come first in the songwriting process? Like, does there need to be riffs involved, or does there need to be rhythm, or have you approached every song from many different angles?
A lot of different angles, definitely. Sometimes it's just like a chorus with like an acoustic guitar with 4 chords, like sometimes it's a big riff. Sometimes it's just a melody, just a vocal, whatever it is, and then you write around that. I mean, it really it goes a lot of different ways.
And that has to keep it interesting.
Yeah, it does. No, absolutely. Like, yeah, definitely not like having a certain thing that you always go to. I just think that could get a bit redundant, like I don't know. Yeah, it's just you get great things trying things different ways, I think. So we're always just trying to, trying to just do, just follow that creative energy that you have. You just follow it. You got to listen to it.
Yeah, and has working with other artists, like you collaborated on a In This Moment track this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you collaborate with Beartooth as well?
I did. I just kind of wrote with Beartooth. That was kind of behind the scenes more so. And then In This Moment, I had the opportunity to sing on their song Hunting Grounds on their new album, and which was amazing. And you learn something new from everybody you work with. You learn something new. You see kind of how they attack songs, the way that their process is, and then maybe they learn from you too. But it's all, I try to just work with artists I respect and that I think I can contribute to, or that they can, whatever it is. But there's usually a level of respect and just, it's an honor to work with people.
Yeah. Is it like a different mind frame when you're working with other people as opposed with DED, or is there kind of like a usual method behind the madness that sort of like applies to everything?
Yeah, there's a little bit different of a mind frame. Like with DED, I can be a little more selfish, where I'm just like, all right, this is what I like. When I'm working with someone else, I kind of have their whole kind of vibe and their whole like maybe catalog or where they're at, a little bit more in my mind, where I'm like, because if it's with them on their music or whatever, then I'm a little bit more like, it's your thing, how can I contribute to that, to your vision more so than if they were working with me on my song, it would be my vision, you know what I mean? So it's like, but I love being collaborative, and I love working with people. So it really is. It's just like anything creative, creating anything. There's just no one way to do it. And but I think when you're working with, you work with someone you respect and they respect you. It's just a cool thing. It's just awesome to do.
Yeah, I mean, when I listened to the In This Moment track that you were on, like it was sort of like a what I see is what I get with it. Like it sounded like DED meets In This Moment. It almost seems like that when you collaborate with somebody, they kind of really want you to bring your own signature sound to their signature sound, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely hear that. And even on that song, I did something almost a little bit different than I would do on DED stuff. That kind of like, I guess it's still like that kind of creepy, kind of vibey, creepy singing on that one. And but that was definitely Maria's vision for that song. Was kind of like two wolves kind of facing off and this kind of thing. And I mean, she's a real visionary, and I love her. So yeah, huge shout out to In This Moment, you guys, and In This Moment on that tour. I mean, that was a big disappointment for that to get postponed this year. I hope it could still happen in the foreseeable future. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I know that they have dates and things for it. It just depends on if we can announce it, if and when, that kind of thing, but I'm really hoping so too.
Yeah, don't announce it just yet, because I don't want to jinx it. I'm still waiting for that tour to happen.
No, I won't, because same reason, absolutely.
Yeah, but maybe you lucked out, because on the New York City date, there was supposed to be like 4 other big shows happening that day, so...
Oh. Okay. Well, maybe that works for that then. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Silver lining. Sure,
I like it.
Yeah. Now, as a vocalist, do you need to hear music before you come up with the lyrics, or is there ever a time where maybe like you have like a concept or a story in mind and that could help dictate the direction of the music itself?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I also play guitar and stuff too, so I can kind of do a lot of different things in that aspect. But a lot of times I'll just be driving down the road and I'll just start singing something. I'll just put it, voice memo it in my phone or whatever, and it'll just be a melody. And then you got to write the music around that. So that happens sometimes. But I really do enjoy when someone, whoever, whichever the guys, or if it's someone else, turns in a demo or whatever, and they really create an environment for me to live in, and kind of the notes kind of dictate my notes and maybe where I'm going to go, and it might paint some sort of a picture for me, to live inside. And there's something really cool about that too. So back to that, there's just no one way to do it, and you can get great stuff doing things different ways.
Yeah. Have you ever though had the best lyrics ever, but then they're always one syllable over the arrangement of everything?
Yeah, that's terrible. But I'm really I love pushing ideas and problem solving until it becomes the right way, or it's just all right, you have to abandon that idea and use it somewhere else, that kind of thing. So you get you get a little, you got to be creative, and you got to you got to kind of be like it's like a problem solver, you know. It's almost like a math equation. Like, how do I get this in here, make it sound good, you know? And then, because like, if you just cram a bunch of words in, sometimes it's not as powerful as if it needs to be displayed the right way, you know, whether it's with the melody or the rhythm or whatever it is, you know. So yeah, but that's one of my favorite parts about songwriting is chiseling it down until they all fit like a puzzle, you know.
I totally agree. But aren't you also worried that like the lyrics you abandon, or even like the song you abandon, could be a B-side one day, just be the biggest hit you guys ever had?
I do think about that sometimes, but it's like sometimes, you know, a song that you're like, that was cool. You know, obviously you're proud of all your music, but it's pretty wild that like that becomes the most popular song sometimes. You're like, I swear it would have been that one, but you just never know, you know, what people are going to be into.
Yeah, and I'd imagine too, because you know, you mentioned that sometimes you'll be driving. I'd imagine like the greatest inspiration sometimes strikes at like the most inconvenient times, right?
That's true too. Yeah, absolutely. You might be in the middle of a party and you got to like walk outside and go find a quiet place to put your idea down, or you can't leave. And then, you know, I think about those sometimes, like the ones that get away, like the ideas where you just, you know, you just didn't get it put down. You're like, oh, I wonder if that would have been, you know, like an amazing song or not. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Do you just kind of like make peace with it, saying clearly it was like not meant to be or something like that?
I don't try to like comfort myself, you know, like for, you know, it's like, if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. But yeah, I guess in a way that's the truth. But then also a lot of times I'll think like if it you know, if there really was a great idea, hopefully it'll just kind of stick around in my mind and come back to me at some point, you know.
Mm-hmm. Do you try to leave the lyrics open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe like engage the listener into what you're singing about?
I don't like it to be super cut and dry, I guess, if it was a preference, but things come out different ways. And if it comes out super literal and it's obvious, then I don't really fight against that. You know, I try to just let it flow. I just try to be, you know, like the Bruce Lee quote, like, you know, be like water, you know, and flow like that. And I try to be that way. And so, you know, yeah, certain songs come out super literal and certain ones, you know, come out different ways. So.
Yeah, you kind of have like the best of both worlds, especially like with the title like of the EP Mannequin Eyes. Like that really can be representative, because this could just be my interpretation of it. I was always like afraid of mannequins as a kid. So like those eyes I just find so weird, but at the same time, like mannequin eyes could also refer to somebody who's just dead inside and has nothing, and you stare into their eyes. I feel like there's so many different angles just to interpret the music, let alone write it and listen to it.
Right, and with that being said too, I do like that. I like things to be open to interpretation. Like a lot of times people like will ask what a song is about exactly, and I can tell them what it's about for me, you know. But then I really would like it to be open for anybody to hear it and apply it to their, you know, life or their experiences, and really get what they want to get out of it. Because I know there's a lot of my favorite songs that are what they are to me, but maybe not necessarily the same thing to that artist, you know. So. I do like that to be open, so it's like a wide open. It's just a broader idea for people.
Yeah, some people say that saying something is open to interpretation is like a cop out sometimes for the artist not wanting to explain their work, and I think every artist should be able to defend their work and explain it to an extent. But just because you're saying something's open to interpretation doesn't mean that there's no meaning behind it or anything like that.
Yeah, correct, and I think and sometimes maybe you're creating something, you might not even know what it's about until a year later. Honestly, you'll listen to it and you go, oh, that's what I was feeling at that moment. That makes sense, you know. You're not even ready to, like, you just recorded it, you just wrote it, it's all fresh, you're putting it out, and you know, you haven't really spent enough time with it to really even know, you know, what it is, because it's just thoughts and energies and stuff, you know, words coming from your soul, from inside that creative place. And oftentimes it's not really like a super thought out thing. It's just like it's a vibe, you know?
Absolutely. And like when that vibe happens, like it's almost kind of like a one shot thing where it, like, I think it's fair to say that with a lot of the songs, if you wrote them at a different time, whether it was a year previous or a year later, odds are you'll have maybe a different attachment to it, or the song could be different altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally true. It's totally true. That goes with like hearing a song from someone else or a movie or something, and you're just not in the right place for it, and you don't like it, and then you maybe watch it a year later, like, oh, that's fantastic, you know. So it really just it all depends the way we absorb the way we absorb things and digest things.
I've always wondered, that's like the biggest like thing, like take some of the greatest pieces of art we've ever seen in like if Guns N' Roses wrote Appetite for Destruction today, if like that, or if The Exorcist was made today, like how different people would digest it or interpret it, and how different the band would have put the effort into it.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like it happened when it had to happen, and I would still, I think I'd like to think I would still enjoy those things today, but you know, who knows? You know, it might be like a totally different thing if it came out right now.
Yeah, but there's some things in life that are just meant to be a mystery.
Sure, absolutely.
Yep.
And I like it too.
Yep. Now, Dead has toured with like a variety of different styles of bands. Like the most recent time I saw you was at Louder Than Life last year, but you were about to go out, hit the road with In This Moment and Raven Black, which I thought was like and Black Veil Brides, which was a show that I thought really thrived on like a lot of imagery. I feel like every band kind of has like their own character or their own ways of expressing themselves. But I know that you toured with Korn and Animals as leaders. The first time I saw you was with Bless the Fall. So like have you noticed like maybe a different reaction in the crowd, or maybe even a different crowd altogether, depending on like the tour packages you've been on?
Yeah, definitely. Like certain packages will be a little bit more like moshy, I guess, you know, or they'll be a little bit more, you know, like it's like the crowds are different, I guess, in certain areas. But I guess our crowd always comes and they're usually a little rowdy, so it's like it's a mix. And but we like playing, you know, with all kinds of different bands and getting in front of different people, and you know, we've had to grow into that too, because sometimes maybe we'll be playing in a theater and there's like seats in it, and that used to kind of like piss us off. But at a certain point, we're like, yeah, that's totally cool, you know. Like not every show needs to be straight up like Moshville, you know. So it's like it's a growing experience even for us that we've played so many shows and that kind of thing. It just, there's always new things that can come up for you. But it's really great to play with different bands and get in front of their fans and just kind of see how different places are, and it also works on different cities. Like sometimes there's like cities where they don't get a lot of shows, so they don't even know what to do sometimes when you're playing, and then you know, so it's always a different experience, and that keeps it exciting too.
Yeah, well, as referring to the seating shows, you just got to do what Judas Priest did at Madison Square Garden and have everybody rip the seats out.
That's amazing. Yeah. You know, like whatever your thing is, absolutely.
Yeah. You didn't get that idea from me though.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
And when it comes to playing live, because I've always thought it was a very different experience, you know, watching you versus simply listening to you. Is there maybe though like a similar energy into playing live as there is with songwriting, or do you almost feel like that those are two separate things altogether?
I think they're two separate things for me personally. Songwriting is a bit more isolated in a way. It's a bit more like inside of you, where I feel like playing the show is a bit more external, and it's a bit more like sharing that energy with a lot of different people. And then when you're writing it, it's like you have all that energy inside of you, and you're excited. You feel this, I do at least, feel this warmth and this rush kind of when I'm writing something that I'm excited about. But then on stage, more like just portraying that and sharing it with other people. They're thinking about you. So yeah, I would say the two are different in the sense of like external and internal, but you know, both exciting, both, you know, filled with energy. So they're similar. Yes, same but different.
Yeah. Well, what I like asking artists is because, you know, when you're playing live, in the end, it is just taking the material you put on the album and replicating it in a live setting. So being that there's sort of like a replicant element, is there anything creative about playing live?
Yeah, there is in a sense, like live, you know, you can kind of do whatever you want. You can change the songs a little bit even live. Like you can kind of take some liberties, and you know, maybe like the drum fill will be different here if you feel like it, or I'll change the lyric or add some stuff in, or you know, scream something I'm not supposed to scream, or sing something I'm not supposed to, you know, that I screamed before. Because you're really in the moment, and that's really what's so great about a live show. Is just like the kind of the human aspect of it, because on an album it's like perfect, you know, at least the way we do things nowadays, it's like a lot more perfect. There still is a human touch to it, but there's a chaos live, and it's something that really happens once when that show is happening, and then it'll never happen again the same exact way. So I think that's why we're drawn to it. You know, you're about living in a moment, and that's exciting. That's special. You know.
Yeah. Do you almost feel like you, in a way, like portray a character on stage?
No, I wouldn't say there's like necessarily like a character. I think my vibe changes night to night, and from moment to moment, from song to song. I think it's definitely me on TED, you know, but I don't think I'm like trying to portray a character necessarily. Like, there's no, like, I don't put myself in a box. You know, if I'm feeling a certain way, I act that way. You know, it's really my time to really just be 100% free and just to fly on stage. That's the way I look at it.
That's a great way of putting it. It seems like it's very liberating. It's like controlled chaos. You're able to, like, you know, get lost in the music, but not so lost that you kind of like lose the grip of the reality that you're presenting the art to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed this discussion. Just obviously, you know, thanks to a certain virus that I'm not naming on my outlet, you know, don't give it any publicity.
Free press, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say that climate change should really hire the publicist for this virus. Just saying.
I agree with that. Not a bad idea.
But just obviously, you know, tours aren't happening now. But is there anything, you know, obviously, you know, is there a way that fans could support you guys, you know, for the In This Moment tour? And can we be expecting some new Dead very soon, like the timeline on when the new record could come out, if you're allowed to say, of course?
Yeah, I can say that we shot a new music video, and we just dropped Parasite like last week, that song. So we shot a music video for another song that will be coming out in the near future, and I'm hoping to have details on releasing the album, but that's still being worked on. It's just such a weird time, you know. And with the tours, you know, we're so excited to tour within this moment. Blackwell Brides, Raven Black, and we know that that's being set up to be rescheduled. It just really depends on, you know, how we come out of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, I can't say anything about it right now, but you know, we're working on trying to get everything going, and trying to stay as busy as we can, you know, in like this new world that we're in.
Yeah, but you know, we got to worry about this moment first. No pun intended.
Correct.
Yeah, I had to say that at least once in this interview.
Nice.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Joe. Everybody, we are here with Joe of Dead. Be sure to check out the new single, Parasite. If you haven't already, new stuff coming soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.